Welcome back to another episode of the Tony Narrative Show. I'm Tony, and thank you for joining me today. I have a question for you. Have you ever decided that you need to buy a new memory card for your digital camera, but you have no clue which one to get? There's so many of them out there with different brands from Sony, the SanDisk. They're just, even of those ones at Walmart that just came out, those new ones that are just really cheap, right? Which memory card, SD card do you need for your digital camera that's going to perform the best for your situation? Today I'm going to answer that question for you with showing you one card that I buy every single time I need a new memory card that works perfectly for me. And that is the SanDisk Extreme Pro 64 gig SD card. But first, before we talk about that, let's roll that intro. So, like I said, there's many cards out there that come in different sizes, weights, and shapes in different brands. You got your 8 gig memory SD cards all the way to 1 terabyte now, which is, oh my gosh, that's insane. Why do you need an SD card that large, right? And you have your 8 gig memory cards that are, quite small. If you're shooting raw photos, you'll fill that 8 gig up pretty quick. If I'm doing a photography job, I do between 3 to 4 gigabytes of photos per job. And sometimes I don't wipe the old job off the memory card before I start a new job. So then, it's a timing issue there. But I always carry an extra memory card just in case I forget to do that. And the reason why I leave old photos on SD cards is because I want to have multiple places where it's located at, right? So let's say I do job A and I have all the photos on that SD card. I get home, I go to my computer, I save them to a hard drive. So that's 2 locations are saved to, and then I store them on the cloud. So there's 3 locations. Now, once I finalize the images and I've sent those back to the client, I will then format the SD card that I was using and wipe everything. So I only have 2 locations, between myself, so the hard drive, and my cloud storage. And then the third location is actually with the client, right? Because they have printable, size photos in their database too, just as well. And when I mean by printable, I've sent them the edited images that in a larger format, so that way they can print them with the highest clarity to the image versus them sitting in a small JPEG. So even if I lose 2 of my sources for some reason, I can still get that file back from them. Though that's kind of weird to ask that question. I wouldn't recommend it. But they'll have the edited photos. You just won't have those other raw unedited photos, the ones you can go back to later on. Sometimes you look at those raw photos from the past and you realize you like some of them. But that's neither here nor there. So that's what happens. That's what the problem with the smaller 8 gig ones are. Then you have your 32 gigs. You have 16 that comes next. 16 is fine. I love 16 gig memory card SD cards for photography because you can get at least 3 to 4 jobs on there, and that's perfect versus getting that 1 to 2 on there. And then next step up is 32. 32 is even better. I like those for wedding jobs because you're there 8 to 12 hours, and you're not really worried about oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss this shot because I need to change cards. You have enough room to make a couple scenes, from hair and makeup to the dress reveal. You can get through that portion of it before you take the memory card to switch to a different memory card, and you're at the actual reception and dances, all that stuff. So 32 seems to be pretty perfect for me for wedding photography. The next step up is 64 gig. Now 64 gig gives you a little more wider spectrum of what you can do with it. So I like 64 for photography and for video because you have a lot of room there. Typically, all the YouTube videos I record are recorded on one of these 64 gig SD cards. I always leave one inside the camera. It's just the perfect size for me. Then you move up to 128, which is twice as much as 64, and then you move up to 256, which I don't use 128. It's not that I have a problem with 128. It just I don't use 128 anything but my GoPros, my Insta360 camera, and my drones. And the only reason why I use 128 in those is because I typically shoot 4K, 5.7, higher resolution videos. And sometimes I'll do a job and I'll use my GoPro, my 360 camera, and look at the footage and didn't like it. But like, it's not that I didn't like it. It's just like, I could say that for another project. So I just leave it on there. I don't care about that. So when it comes to micro SD cards, I use 128. But for photography and videography, SD cards and my mirrorless camera, I use 64. Now, after 128, like I said, there's 256. 256 is a lot of storage, and I do recommend those if you are somebody who takes long trips. Maybe you're taking a 2 to 3 day trip, maybe once every other month or so, and it's kind of one of those things like you're going to get a lot of footage in 2 to 3 days, a lot of photos, and you kind of just want a card that you don't have to worry about carrying extra cards. You can just leave one card of your camera and be just fine. Now, a lot of times people say, well, that's too large to store things on. What if the card gets damages? Honestly, I've broken one card in the past 5 years, and that was because I dropped it. Every other card I've had has been just fine, and even then when I dropped that card, it cracked the shell, but the memory card still worked just fine. And SanDisk has a program where as long as you don't lose it or completely destroy it, they typically can get your footage and your images back off that card at a nominal fee. So that's not 256 isn't bad. I actually keep a 256 inside of my Canon M50 mirrorless camera that goes in my day travel bag. So if I'm just doing just normal day-to-day stuff, running around with the kids, I carry my M50 with me because it's a small, compact, and I don't have to worry. I could honestly throw it in my pocket with a 24mm prime lens on there. So I leave a 256 in there because it's not anything I've captured with that camera for our video and images. I'm not in any rush to get that, so I just leave it on there, and then once eventually that card hits a little bit over 100 gigs, then I pull everything off and reformat the card. So 256 I think is good for if you're not looking to reformat that card all the time and you need it for multiple days, like as a day-go kind of camera. You want to plug that in there where you're not really worried about it, right? It's kind of a set it, forget it kind of thing. 1 terabyte, there's 512 and 1 terabyte that are next. Those are the last two ones that we have available now. If you find a good reason to use those, leave a comment down below. Let me know. I've been trying not to buy one of those, but then oh my god, so much, you can store so much on there. Now, if you have a camera that shoots 8K or some other crazy resolution higher than that, and that's all you shoot is 8K, maybe 512 and 1 terabyte is not a bad idea for you. And I'll explain that in just a second. But to me, those are too big and they don't make any sense to me. You never see me buy them. You never see me buy them. I won't. So, memory cards are weird. They have a couple things written on the front of them. So, let me kind of zoom in so you can see that real quick. Zoom in. Let me change the focus. So on front of them, there is a couple numbers right here. There is on the bottom, there is a U3, a 10 with like a half circle on there, and then a V30 at the top next to the XC card. So what those are is the one that says V30 is the video class speed read. Okay, you always want to buy a memory card, an SD card that has a V30 on there, and that just goes with any card, honestly. V30, and the one that has that U and the 3 on there, same thing. You want to make sure you have a 3 on there, and then the 10. That's if you buy a V30, it's gonna have a 10 on there. Sometimes they take that off because the V30 for video speed class kind of trumps all that other stuff, so you might only see the V30 on there, but that's what's important. And then this one says 170 megabytes per second, so that's the read speed on there. Yeah, the read speed. So that's just telling you how fast that card can read versus how fast that card can write. Let me fix my focus real quick for y'all. get back in where I want to sit at. Boom. So, really the biggest thing that you want to pay attention to is the V30 on there for video speed class. And the reason why I'm suggesting always getting a card that has the V30 on there is because it will work best for, if you have a higher speed camera that can shoot, 12, 20 frames per second for photos, and also for video too, just as well. You will need a V30 speed class memory card if you shoot 4K video, period. Don't even worry about anything else. You will need V30 if you're going to shoot 4K. Now, if you're never going to shoot 4K, if you have a camera that doesn't shoot 4K and only shoots 1080, then you can go with a video class speed 10. That's fine, or just a regular SD card with, they typically all have them on there now, but video class speed 30 on there is the best option. There are some V90s out there that are just really fast, but the cameras really haven't got there just yet where you have to have one of those SD cards, at least not for the typical average user, to my knowledge, right? So I always get the V30. It works best with 4K. It will read the right way. You won't get any disoriented images. It'll capture everything as it needs to. It won't be choppy. And if you get something that doesn't have a good speed class on there, you will know. The card will not be able to write fast enough, nor will it be able to read fast enough. You will find that out right away. I guarantee it. And your footage will come out terribly. So that's why I go with the V30. Now, as far as shooting, like if you have a camera that shoots 1080, 120, 1080, 60 frames per second, 1080 to 40 frames per second or higher, even then that video class 30 will also work just fine, and make sure you're getting nice, smooth, buttery, slow motion images, video as well, because you are still handling a lot of data. And 4K footage in those 1080 240s, they take up a lot of data, especially if you're recording a 4K video for 30 minutes. Oh gosh, that's like 16, 20 gigs of storage right there. So again, like going back to what I said, like 32 is, okay for images and some video for sure. But if you're doing multiple takes at 30 minutes and you're filling up you're getting 16 to 20 gigs of storage just from that 4K video, then you need a higher memory card. And that's why I like 64 gigs. I keep 3 64 gigs. One on my camera, 2 memory card case. These are perfect for me. I typically don't fill these up, and if I do fill them up, I have another 64 right away to take care of it. The reason why I use 64 gigs for work projects for video wise is because it forces me to change cards once this gets closer to that halfway mark. Usually when I hit 32 to 36 gigs of footage on a card from a job, I will change to the next card. And the only reason I do that is because I've usually shot a portion of my day and I have it on one card. I take that card out and I put the new card in. And if something happens to that card, it's not all on one card because I'm moving to another card. So again, that's why I say like 256 and higher doesn't make sense to me for jobs, because if something happens to your footage from a job, you lose all of it because your one memory card fell. You got to reshoot everything. Or if it's a wedding and there's your videotaping, you can't redo that, right? Now, with a wedding, if a 64 gig card dies on you, no big deal, right? Because maybe you you lost the footage from the hair and makeup, you lost footage from the ceremony, you lost footage from the reception, you lost footage from somewhere. And you kind of see how I broke that down into 3 parts, hair and makeup, getting ready, ceremony, stuff, the family stuff afterwards, and a little bit before the dress reveal, and then you have your reception, dance and all that stuff. Those 3 categories, I keep 3 memory cards, and boom, right on here, right? And then I keep an extra like 2 32 gig ones on me for everything else. You just never know, right? Now, and like I said, I keep those 3 64 gig cards on me. They work perfectly. I highly recommend the SanDisk Extreme Pro 64 gig ones. They're the most durable out of all their 64 gig line SD cards. They handle weather a lot better. They handle drops a lot better, and they typically have a higher read-write speed on there, so that way I can make sure that I'm getting quality 4K image footage if I am recording 4K. But also, I just want to know that like I'm not gonna have the card not handle what I'm doing. Okay, 64 is perfect for me, and honestly, these are $20 on Amazon right now as of today. Usually they're no more than like $25, $20 to $25. You can get them at Best Buy for $25. I would say you can go to Best Buy and price match to Amazon for $20, but for some reason they use a different model number between Amazon and Best Buy, so you can't do that. It's so weird. Same card, just a different model number. No clue why. But yeah, so I just order, I order maybe one every 3 months off of Amazon for $20, just to constantly keep replacing them. Also, another reason why my cards never go bad because I got a crap load of these 64 gig, and that's how I do it, man. 64 gig SanDisk Extreme Pro. It's the best card for you. It's the best card for me, and all around best card. Remember, video class speed 30 and 64 gig SanDisk Extreme Pro. SanDisk does have SanDisk Extreme. They have their Ultra Plus, Ultra, and then they're just standard blue ones. And each time you go from like that standard blue to the Ultra Plus, the Extreme, the Extreme Pro, you get a higher, faster read-write speed and a higher video class on it too. So I just say go with the, Extreme Pro the first time. 64 gigs, $20. You can't beat that. But thank you for joining me. I'm Tony. This is the Tony Narrative Show, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.